Hello, all you awakeners and alchemists of energy and reality. This is Sheen, your host of AwarenessRevolution.fun, certified health coach, essential oil expert, and trauma removal specialist. And today's guest, I'm super excited to say, is Jaden Fox, who
Yay!
is a multidimensional pioneer and is internationally renowned as a consciousness accelerator and evolutionary healer who is most well known for solving the tough cases. I
Yeah.
love that. On this planet and beyond, including alien abductions, demonic possessions, and everything from schizophrenia to energetic attacks. He shows people how to kick butt.
Mm.
He shows them how to kick out non-physical interference and get out of fear by using advanced, and I do mean advanced, processes of awakening to assist those undergoing intense interference to turn those situations around and take back over their life and body so they can bring balance and change here, right here on the planet they were here and always intended to bring. So
Hmm.
welcome, Jaden. I'm so excited.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here. It's good to connect with you again. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, you too. And Jaden, just so you know, backstory, has been a mentor of mine for many years and has introduced me to so many incredible awareness concepts and had just put me on a position where I am right now. And I would like to know more about you, Jaden, as far as what brought you to this moment in time. What was the most transformational experience you had?
You had to
I
load
know
it
there's
that
been
way,
so
didn't
many,
you?
so many I know.
um, I, the more I look at it, my entire life has been this transformational process that while when I was unconscious, it didn't necessarily move very fast, where what has changed the most is I've become more conscious of it and gone from changing the subtleties of my life and the minutia of my life, like redecorating, to making major changes about who I am and how I express, and stepping into the fullness of me and moving out all the limitation. And you get to a point where like where I'm at now is you kind of even get bored with just my life as a playing field, or you start to realize that uh, it's like, okay, I've changed my life, but now I'm bumping up against the planet's structure and the universe's structure. And it's like, okay, well, we need to change that because there's things that are like out of kilter, and that messes with me. So we need to change that too. And it I don't know, it's the snowball thing that just keeps going in all directions. So I I have no way of answering your question. Sorry.
I think you did that brilliantly. So
Oh, thank you.
basically, you're here to do some pretty big work, and you're helping other people to remember what their part of that process is as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
find that,
cool.
that's just like, I didn't start that way, but in order to get people to see the truth and step into who they came here to be, they need to see the bigger picture. When you live in a small world that this reality hands you, it's like nothing makes sense, and who you are is just kind of pathetic and can't do much. But when you can step out of this world and see the authentic big picture beyond the illusions, all of a sudden, ooh, you're a big player. And so like it's necessary to have people like see the truth of who they are, is to get that big. Because what if that's who you are? You're really that big.
Yes, that feels so great.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. You know, one of the discoveries that you announced that I found really fascinating was the topic of implanted memories.
Hmm.
And I see that as an incredible vehicle to keep people small and
Hmm.
contracted and just not becoming what it is that you're helping them become. Would you go into that a little bit and help people understand what it is that you've discovered with implanted memories?
Yeah, I call them disguised memory implants. And what they're like is they're like little modules of memory. And the anchor point that I can give people, that most people who are aware or spiritual or healers have dabbled in a little bit or a lot of it, is Akashic records and past life memories. Let me just call it past life memories. And I spent almost a decade like doing hypnotic regressions and guiding people and exploring those. And as you get good at it, it actually gets rather easy to find those memories. And the more aware you get, the more they're just available to you. But when you dig back behind them, there's just nothing. It's almost like it's just like a snippet of a piece of film that was taken out, and you just kind of have that little snippet and you keep looking for what's behind that, but there's nothing there. And when you actually start to go, well, is that mine? Did I create that? Did I install that? Or did something else installed it? It's like, ooh, something else installed it. And you can actually find, if you go back behind that memory, it's easier just to kind of put it out in front. And it's like, look for who installed it, like on your computer file, the signature for the installer. And you can find the date it was installed, the block it was installed in, and other ones that were installed at the same time. And they're often like this random smorgasbord of memories that many people have very similar ones. And the more you dig in those, you start to realize they're not, what if they're not real at all? What if what those past life memories are actually disguised memory implants to get you to buy into or believe in some synthetic concept or some uh, alternate reality that isn't natural to you or your body. And when they're in your body, they're mostly body things, and it gives your body the, like the background or the sense of that thing. Whereas like the being can have memories, mental concepts of things, but body kind of works in this richer medium. And that's what I find those are. And we could just take those out and destroy them, and all of a sudden you have the space to perceive more that you couldn't perceive before. They're like hiding things.
So in essence, the installers of these disguised memory implants are using them as a
Exactly.
distraction device.
Yeah. So often it's something where, for instance, the New Age community has them in spades. The longer you're in that, the more of those you kind of take in, and it's kind of like the reference material to back up the synthetic truth. So it's like you believe this one thing, and then the next morning you wake up, and I find that a lot of them are often installed overnight, or you wake up in the morning and they're just there. I'm not going to say how they're installed. Let's just say you wake up in the morning and they're there for some reason, and it's like their support, their justifications for why, that back up the belief system that you've taken on.
Mm.
They give you another good example would be the whole concept of love at first sight. That was my actual first kind of bouncing into these things, like concretely. I'd have people who uh, left a relationship and they couldn't let go of the guy. They couldn't let go of the person. They kept having these longing feelings. And when we started to go in and deeper, they'd have all these memories that they were like, oh yeah, this was this love at first sight, and I just saw him and I just knew this was my partner and my twin flame and my soulmate, and it was so beautiful. I just knew it. And I've been there. Like I know exactly what that's like. And it's like, where does that come from? How does this person you've never met before, you often feel like, oh, I've had past lives together, and they're called disguised memory implants. And when, if you've left a relationship like that and that relationship is still kind of tangling you, go back and look for the memory implants and you clear, then all of a sudden body's like, I don't know, I never really knew that guy. It's so bizarre, but it gives your body this almost reference or energetic history for anything that they want to install. So it's typically used to limit you or get you to buy into something that you have a mental concept of, but you need something deeper to like really get it, and
Mm.
that gets your body the buy-in.
So it could possibly also send you into a different timeline.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like I'll see it with people who start to get involved in witch burnings. They're like, yeah, I've got these memories of being burned at the stake, and I'm looking at them like, Mm, is that yours? Like, how much is that? Did you create that? Oh, no, it's a past life. Yeah, okay, well, put it on front of you. And how much has it got your signature on it? And how much has it got some other signature? Oh, wait, that's some other signature. Find all the other ones. Oh, they have other signatures. They're not mine. We clear those, and all of a sudden, are you connected to the witch burnings? They're like, no, I had nothing to do with it. Bingo. So it gives you evidence for the history, the supposed history of something that's not necessarily real.
Wow. So that can really keep you locked down because I know so many people. I
Oh,
used to do past life regression, I'm trained in that and
mm-hmm.
found out how people would just really dig into that story and just make it theirs, and it just, you could see, you could
Yep,
feel them going off in this totally different direction
yep.
based on that memory that could possibly not even be theirs.
And it's kind of it. I think it's often used exactly as you describe it, is like a seed that they know that we as creative beings want there to be more. And so when there isn't more, we go looking for more and we go creating more. And oh, well, I'll bring in some of this. And oh, this connects to this. Yes, I knew that. It's my Cleopatra lifetime. Yeah, okay, we bring that in here and bring this in here. And oh, look at this. It's all coming together now. And we create this fabricated reality, this synthetic reality that explains the truth of who we are, not as humans, but as these beings who are separate from our body and separate from the truth of who we are. But it seems cool and different. It doesn't seem mundane. But it's like, what if who you are is cool and different, but it's cool and different in a different way? Instead of
Yeah.
in a synthetic way, it's in a really deep and expansive, magnificent way.
I love that. Feels so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm have been picking up regarding that is if a race, let's just say, we're interested in controlling another race, a really efficient, effective way to do that would be to just traumatize a small number of that race and record that trauma and then broadcast it out to a multitude of others.
Bingo. Bingo. And that to me is one of the ways that disguised memory implants can be installed. Like the number of people who profess to be an MK Ultra, even when you look at the data from that, like that's now been publicly released, and they'll tell you the number of participants, the number of us who believe that we were in that program, and I counted myself there for a while. It's like, oh, I know I was. I can feel it. I have this glimmer memory of this and glimmer memory of that. And like the rest is blurry, but I can kind of piece it together and stitch in these other things and stuff I've read and pictures I've seen. And yeah, that was me. And it's like that when you look at it, it's like, well, wait a minute, it doesn't even make any sense. When in my life would that ab actually fit in? Oh, well, I was in this parallel reality, blah, blah. Like we start to make up all these really cool stories, and it is cool. I can't put it down. I had a lot of fun until it wasn't fun anymore. But it's like when you actually can sit down with other people and look at them in the way that you and I can see them, it's like, wait a minute, we both have that same memory and it both feels the same and it both looks the same. Like, who was the installer of your memory? Well, it's the same person who installed my memory. What is that? And I can will contact me and they're like, oh, I need to get out of this MK Ultra and this abduction program, and we just start clearing disguised memory implants, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't think I was part of that. I'm like, no, I don't get that you're part of it either, but it was cool to play in until
Right.
it's not.
Instant liberation.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I will just give you a little bit of a backstory for me in regards to this topic. Maybe 8 years or so ago, I was doing some work with a shaman who is a very amazing person. And at the very end of the session, I'm in this deep trance, which I can slip into really easily. And within instance, I go from complete relaxation into almost a full-blown panic attack because what I saw were these grays, the infamous grays staring down at me. There were three of them just staring down at me, and I freaked out. There
Yeah,
was no reason for that, all of a sudden to show up.
yeah.
And when I asked her about it, she goes, "Oh, they just said it's nothing. It's not what you think it is." I was like, Wow. But I wasn't aware of all of this other thing at the time. So that one instant set me on a path of, oh my gosh, must have been abducted, all this trauma and drama around that and all the research I went into just from that maybe 3 seconds of
Yep.
an implanted memory.
Yep.
So it's important that people are aware that this is at least possible, and then they can work with you to resolve that.
Like work with anybody. You don't even need to work with me. It's just realizing that what if that stuff isn't real? And once you know disguised memory implants, it's like, what are all the disguised memory implants here? And you just kind of intend to call them all out, put them all in a pile way out in front of your body, like far enough out that it's outside of your body's energetic space. And you even have to invite your body sometime to let that go and relax. And it'll just go, oh, good, because I never like those. Like you feel your body just relax, like, okay, good, I'm over that. It really is actually there. Those are simple to get rid of. Some of the other stuff is kind of a little gnarly, but that one's actually, anyone can do that one.
Yeah, well, thanks for that tip. I'm sure
Yeah.
people who are listening can start working on that right away.
Yeah. Oh, please do. Yeah.
For all of us.
Yes. Get rid of the aliens.
Here we go. Awesome. And one of the other things I was really excited to talk to you about today is the topic of walk-ins, because that's something
Mm.
else I have experience with, and I believe that there are many people out there as well too. So could you give me a little bit of your backstory regarding that and what you've discovered along your journey?
Sure. It turns out that I'm the sixth occupant of this body. There were five others before me. And most of mine were facet swaps. So it was the, you can think of it as the oversoul, or the essence, the larger part of of a being. Like, what if you can't fit the whole being in this body, at least not at this time? And so you would they would traditionally bring in a facet of that, and you'd explore that for a lifetime or for however. And somewhere in the 50s, 60s opened up a possibility to have, instead of having the body die when the being left, that you could have one being choose to say, look, I'm done. And instead of dragging out a whole life, they could just exit and another being take over. So you can have some beings, actually what's most talked about is one different soul family leaves and another one comes in. But actually what I find most with aware beings, and it's actually really common, um, my perception of it, although it's a little skewed because I seem to be a magnet for walk-ins to find me. I don't know how that works, but it's definitely magnetic. But my best guess, about 65-70% of the aware, conscious people who are on a path of becoming more aware have experienced a walk-in. So it's actually really, really, really common. And the when it when it happens most often, it seems to be like a facet, what I call a facet change. So picture a diamond, and only one facet of that diamond can be expressed through the body at a time. So after that one expression, after 5, 10 years, however many years, and you're kind of over it, like you get it, you get how this works, you can, the infinite being of you can pull out that facet and exchange it for another facet. And it's like still the same source of you commonly, but it has a completely different expression. So my first facet was a techie, a techie person. And I just, everything techie, I just love techie, techie, techie. And then I had this change, and all of a sudden I could care less about tech. Serious, I really could care less. Like I liked using it and it worked for me, but like I didn't lose my capacities, but it wasn't interesting anymore. And my family wasn't interesting, and the intimate partner I had at the time wasn't interesting, and the career I had at the time wasn't interesting, and and even my name just felt like it didn't fit me anymore. It's like, those are typical indicators of a walk-in. Like you're just, you feel like a whole new person, and you actually are, but you may still be part of the bigger piece of who you are, which is also what I invite people to connect to, is what I call their infinite being, the source essence of them outside of this, all that is this universe, this whole project here. Um, so lots of places we can dig in there. I'm not sure where you want to poke or explore.
Yeah. So have you found that it's an event that causes the change for the walk-ins? That, somebody just puts up a rent sign and says, "Hey, next being, come on in," or is it something traumatic? What are you finding?
In the early days, it seemed like many people, it almost seemed like that was the way you did it, was in an accident. So I had a fatal car accident. I literally died, and they brought me back. It's often something like that. It's an illness. It's something where you go unconscious for some reason, accident or what have you. So in the earlier years, in the 70s, 80s, that seemed to be more common. As things moved into the 90s, that seemed to fade out for people, and it could happen without a big traumatic experience. And I've not dug into the research, but this, like what's going on behind there, but I get a sense that as awareness built on the planet, it became easier to make that transition without it being as harsh. It didn't need to be the person went unconscious. There, the level of awareness, the more aware the being was, the the less harsh the transition needed to be, because it was just, you already kind of get it, so we're just taking you to the next level.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to know if they are a walk-in, what would you suggest that they start taking a look at?
So actually, I've got some symptoms. Let me see if I find that here. Share. So these are the 14 symptoms, and so this is the place to start, is to look at how many of these 14 symptoms do you have. And the first one doesn't even seem like symptom, but it turns into one. So are you on a spiritual or awakening path? It's like there's so many people, 65, 70%. Honestly, I think it's a little higher, but I'm being generous. The people who are on an awakening path just have walk-ins. So I actually consider that a symptom. If you're on an awakening path, that's a potential one. Um, a big telltale one is incomplete memories of your childhood. Like when I go back and I look, I have memories up to a certain point, and then it gets all flaky. It's like I have snapshots, or I have little vignettes, or little things that my parents described about my past, or like I have little memories, but when you try to go into the memory, there's no depth to it. It's like you've got again, a little clip. It's almost like a memory implant, but it's not. It's really yours. So if you've got missing memories, that's a big red flag. If you had dramatic life changes where you're going along and then something happens, and it's usually a definitive space that can be over the course of weeks, months, days, hours. So it can be an accident, or it can just be this span in my life when I was around this age. And all of a sudden everything starts to become different. You change careers, relationships, where you start to live different. You start to think about your name being different. That's a big indicator. Feeling like you want to die or not be here anymore happens in the process once the being that's leaving decides to walk out. And once that being is decided, there's this feeling of like, I'm just done. I'm just absolutely done, or I don't want to be here anymore. Or some actually feel like I want to die. And that's an indicator. If you have that sticking around like that, if that just is there for a little while and then it goes away, chances are you're a walk-in, but it worked successfully and everything is fine. If you find that that sticks around and you want to die and it doesn't go away, or it like comes and goes, like every couple of days you get a little bit back, or every week you get that back for a day or two, that's there's something not right, that like that occupant hasn't walked out fully and it's still in your body and your body's taking turns bringing it there. So that's a strong indicator. Did you ever experience that one?
Yes, yes, and definitely the missing childhood memories. Just a quick story, when my brother was transitioning out of his physical body, the most in-depth conversation we ever had was that he can remember growing up with me, and I can remember growing up with him. But we,
Yeah.
we had this love for each other, but we really didn't know each other at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And
yeah.
to us, after a while, it just becomes normal, where other
Hmm.
people are like, what do you mean you don't how can you not remember? It's like, I don't know. I could explain Walkin to you, but I'm not going to try. Depends on who I'm talking to. Some people I don't even
Right,
try. Just like, nah, I
right.
don't remember. So if you've had suicidal thoughts, that's another one. So um, if you've experienced times in your life where nothing was important and nothing mattered, like we're conditioned or programmed, or when you're in alignment with a purpose or a direction or an intention or a focus, like something matters. But if you've been a walk-in, you've experienced time in your life where just nothing seems to matter, nothing is important, and it's just like blank, empty. And that's a weird one. Like there's no other way to experience those in that I've ever found. um Symptom 7, sometimes you don't know who you are and life feels confusing. Now, to those of us who are in an awakening path, that's kind of normal. We're like, yeah, well, I don't know exactly who I am. You hear, we'll talk about that kind of stuff all the time. But to normal people, normal, quote unquote, people who've never had a walk in before, that's really strange. Like they can't even conceive of not knowing who they are because they so solidly know who they are that they can't know any different. That's another strong indicator of uh, walk-in stuff. Number 8, you don't know what your passions or interests are. Like your hobbies, your hobbies change. Like even my favorite food, I used to love pizza. After one of the walk-in transitions, like I just had no interest in it anymore. It just turned off. Just wasn't interested anymore. I tried to like it, but I just didn't. It was so freaking weird. It's like all kinds of things just change, and life can even be flat. Like for a while, you may even have a space of feeling like you're in a void, and that's the walk out is in that transition of void. A common one is you don't seem to be connected to your family or friends anymore, and that's another really strong one. Is like where other people are like, oh yeah, I love my family, and once you've been walking, it's like they're people I know, but and I like them, and I suppose I kind of love them in a philosophical way, but I don't I don't even they're more like strangers that I know really well. They're not really family anymore. And you can have a variety of those. But if you have some degree of feeling disconnected from family and friends at some point, that's another indicator of walk-in. And by the way, feel free to interrupt me if you have stories.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I just
Uh,
love this list. So keep
all right.
on going.
I just keep running. Okay. So if you've had a major accident or illness and your whole life changed, that is another key one, especially if it was 80s, 70s, somewhere around there. Keep trying to make sense of your life and things just don't make sense. It's kind of like the average person doesn't have to make sense of their life because they have this whole series of connections that they have built up over the entire span of their life that make their life make sense, whether it's rational or not. Like you can look at people who are like uh, not aware, and even if their life really doesn't make any sense at all, they're sure it makes sense. But people who are aware or have undergone a walk-in experience, their life doesn't really make sense. They're always trying to look for how it does make sense. They're trying to hold it together rather than it just being together. So that's a strong indicator. Um, this one is weird. I bumped across this one on the internet and I thought it was so funny. The thought of being born as a baby sounds like way too much work.
That's great.
And I, I'm like,
Sounds so
yeah,
much like us.
there is no freaking way I would ever choose to do that. I'm like, it just seems like the horrible way. Like to have a baby, have a child. Okay, yeah, I could do that. Not interested personally, but like I could do that. Like if somebody wanted to experience that. But like you talk to other people who are not a walk-in, and they're like, oh, being a baby and growing up was so much fun. That was great. I would love to do that again. Walk-ins are like, I am so over it. I'm really done with it. That's a
That's
common thing.
brilliant.
You keep telling stories about your past, but they have no emotion to them. And so if you're other people recognize this in you more than you would notice it. But if you're aware and you notice you keep trying to tell yourself stories about your past, but you really don't have any feeling about it, there's no emotion to it. It's just you keep trying to re-anchor the past in because, well, you don't have anything else to do, or like you're looking for some way to anchor something to something else, and so you keep trying to retell those stories almost as if you need to stay alive, right? It's like that's the concept, is you're trying to hold or build your story of your truth. Your brain does it a lot to try to make sense of your reality, when honestly it doesn't freaking make sense at all. When you look at your past, if you've been a walk-in and you look at your past, there's a lot of shit just doesn't make any sense at all. And that's normal.
Right. And it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it just doesn't matter. It's like, okay, that's just the way it is. Fine. I've moved on. Like after a while you reach a place where whatever, like who cares? It
Freedom.
just doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. And that, yeah, freedom. Thank you. 14, not being able to make decisions, choose, create, or have any direction or purpose in your life. Now, this one is more extreme. This is typically, so if you're in the middle of a walk-in transition, and it is going to work effectively, like it's going to so ideally a walk-in transition is actually guided by what I call transition teams, non-physical beings who are kind of like aspects of the planet or universe kind of thing. They're helpers that come in and they assist in the transition, and then they're gone. But before the transition, during the transition, and after, you're in this weird space where you're the you've got your purpose and your decisions and your way of looking at life is leaving, and a whole different one is coming in, and it may be similar but it feels very different when that transition. So you're in this space in the middle where you can't make decisions, you can't choose, like, what do I want to eat? I have no clue what I want to eat. Like, to other people that's really unusual, they just know, like, I want pizza, I want this, I want that, I want that, it's right there. You're like, I don't know, that's a walk-in thing. um, but if you have difficulty creating or finding your direction or purpose, and it sticks around for more than, let's say, 2 or 3 months, and it doesn't seem to get better, you probably have a walk-in transition that didn't happen correctly. So any one of these things are a symptom temporarily, like wanting to die. That's a temporary symptom. But if that sticks around and lingers for years or decades, then what happened is that transition didn't actually work correctly. And what you end up having is this tangled mess of things. What people usually assume is that, so picture like little glasses of colored water, and it's like, I'm this glass of red water, like that's who I am, I'm red, and somebody else is this color of blue and somebody else is color of yellow. And it's what we picture is that they're all self-contained, and if they're in the same body, that they're just like self-contained, but they're not. They
Mm.
blur together, and you're this swirling yellow, red, blue, green tangle of stuff that you can't tell one thing from the other. And that's what it's really like to have other occupants in your body. What if your body isn't designed to have multiple beings in the body, multiple owners? And if you've had a walk-in transition that didn't work, and after that all of your life has been tangled from there on, something didn't go right. And typically what happens is you had interference that caused you to hang on to the outgoing. And so what happened is you hung on to the outgoing, and now there's multiple versions of you in the body, and the body doesn't know what to do with that, and everything gets tangled, and your
Wow.
ability to create and choose and and function in reality in the way you used to be able to function becomes hampered or almost tied down completely. It's the most effective way of limiting any human or infinite being that I've ever met is by tangling a walk-in thing and have multiple beings in the body. You're dysfunctional, and there's just no way to
Wow.
change it until you can let go of those agreements and points of view and help them to transition, and then you get your body back, and then things settle back in, and you find your purpose and you find your alignment, and you can start to create again. It's like, oh, wow. It's traumatic. It really is traumatic.
That's a great analogy and a huge, huge discovery, Jaden. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront.
You're
So
welcome.
there is actually a way through this if the transition didn't go smoothly.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's really, it's what happened is before the transition, some element of interference, the bad guys here, the aliens, the gods, the all these things that are seeking to prevent awareness on this planet, have kind of cuddled up alongside of you and pretended to be really helpful for a while and said, hey, I see you're doing this walk-in thing coming up in another month, and you're going to feel really lonely when it leaves. Just want to warn you, it's kind of really bad for a while, and it's going to really suck, and you're really going to hate it, and you're going to feel so lonely, and you're going to want to die. And but what you can do is, instead of letting that walk in go, you can actually hold on to it, and then you got a friend for life, and it'll be great, and you'll never be lonely, and you'll have this wonderful friend. Wouldn't it be great?
Your imaginary buddy.
And so you get this point of view like, wow, I'm just going to hold on to this. So when the walk-in transition team comes and they're like, okay, now here's the moment, you just let go of that being and everything's going to work fine. And you're like, no, I'm going to hang on to it. They're like, no, really, you got to let go of it, or this won't work right. Like, no, I'm going to hang on to it. I'm going to be really lonely. No, you won't be lonely. Honest, just let it go. No, I'm going to hang on to it. And you hang on. Transition teams leaves, shaking their head, and you now have a partner for a long time that you're going to regret having, and you're tangled. So it's a matter of going back to that original transition and going, okay, what was the reason I was tricked into holding this being here? And there are a bizarre number of reasons that you can have. But once you connect to that, you clear those reasons and clear any agreements you have, they just leave. The
That's
tangle
great.
is simply, really is simply getting back to the core story of why they felt they were holding it on. And it's almost always a lie, or it's almost always working on a fear that the person had.
Hmm. Okay, so what would you do? I know that one of the symptoms was wanting to die,
Mhm,
and I know that suicide is pretty rampant right
mhm.
now. So, what would you suggest to someone who's stuck in that part of the process?
Well, the first part is to come to terms with exploring being a walk-in. So it's like, I've got that list of 14 common indicators, and it's like, if you've got 7 or more of those, you're pretty likely a walk-in. If you got 1 or 2, then it may or may not be an issue for you. But like hardcore people have had numbers of walk-ins, and I've known people who have had up to 13 different walk-in transitions, and their life was
Wow.
just an absolute wreck,
Hmm.
top to and yeah. And there's a once you clear all that stuff out, you can clean it up, and everything kind of reorientates and it works again. But it's like, you want to we've been conditioned to not allow ourselves to become aware of it, and our brain works to hide it. Our brain works to create a sense of continuity, whether it's real or not. And so when it actually takes a force of will for you to be willing to look at it and willing to dig into it. And once you start to go into that, you can start to find your truth, but recognize it's not readily available, and there's interference that prevents you from seeing it. Like, you're conditioned to not look at it. Like, many of us were taught it's a secret. Like, you've had a walk-in transition, but you can't tell anybody, it's a secret. Well, that was a lie, but it's a good way to tangle somebody because then you're going to keep it a secret from yourself too.
Right. And you make it really significant.
Oh, yes. And then you can't get out of it because you're not willing to look at it squarely. And so that's the first step, is always to be willing to look at it squarely. Look at the symptoms, read. I've got all kinds of free stuff on my website about it. Like, read it and like get a feel for it. And you just start to become more aware. I've got a video where I guide people. It's called Walkin, Finding Your Truth. It's a free video on YouTube, where it helps you to clear the stuff that prevents you from seeing it. But you'll know whether you are or not. If you're not, you'll go, yeah, this just doesn't, like, no, this isn't me. If you are, it's this thing that keeps gnawing away at you and it won't go away because it it awareness wants to be had, because you'll find more of the truth of who you are.
Very cool. Now, I know that you have created an entire program around this topic. Would you let our listeners know what that entails?
Yeah, it's called Detangling Walk-in Transitions, and it's for people who've had walk-in experiences that were manipulated and didn't go correctly, and they're still kind of stuck in something, and they have wanting to die, or some of the, and not being able to create, or any one of these other symptoms that just is stuck in place. And what we do on that, in that program, is guide you through becoming aware of all the different elements of how it happened, which, like, how many walk-ins you had, which ones were tangles, which ones were not, and then systematically clearing all of those things so you can get back to the truth of you and letting go all the beings that chose to die and chose to leave, and just untangling all the mind manipulations that were installed. And it just allows you to get back to the ease and the fun and the truth of you versus the weird tangly stuff.
Yeah, that's what we're all aiming for, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it sounds like a great program for people individually and possibly even for people who are working with people who might be stuck in some
Oh,
of these transitions.
yes. Thank you for saying that. The One of the biggest things that I found in, if you're a healer or you're a facilitator or a person who works with conscious individuals in assisting them in becoming more aware and more conscious, if I would say that if you're looking at the statistics that I have, and that's about 65 to 70% of your clients have undergone a walk-in transition, and a certain percentage of those, and I don't have a really accurate, but I'd say about half or close to half of that 65, 70% have some degree of tangle that is impeding their life. You can do, like, I knew all these really intense, strong, powerful tools and all of this stuff about how to get people from here to there. And if they've had a walk-in transition and I don't address that first, nothing seems to work correctly. Like, they can be clear today. I can, at this session, they can walk away going, wow, I'm clear and I got this whole life ahead and this has changed. Wow, thank you. And then 3 days later, they're back in the shithole and nothing has ever changed. And it's like they're not aware and they've lost everything they've done. It's That is a walk-in thing. So what I've encouraged people to do is, if you are a healer or facilitator, check whether they've been a walk-in and untangle that first, then do whatever you're going to do to guide them to how you work with them to become more of who they are. And so I've also got a facilitator program because I want people to be able to uh, really check that first with their clients. And if that's the thing, clear that up. For really aware clients, you can clear that up in one session. Less aware clients, it may take 2 or 3 sessions to fully clear it. And then it makes everything so much easier after that. I would say most of the struggles that I've had with clients where just weird things happened and it wasn't working the way I expected were almost always walk-in transitions. Once I cleared that, it all just worked easily after that. So I encourage facilitators to look into understanding how that process works and correcting that first. And then it's really easy to do your thing with people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jane. I appreciate you bringing that all the information to the forefront and creating the programs. I'm really
Mhm.
excited about them personally.
Thank
So
you.
what
Yeah.
suggestions could you give someone right now that they could take action on regarding, working with walk-ins? If they're aware that this is the case, that they have walk-ins, it's creating some trauma and drama in their lives. What's the number one suggestion you would have for them?
Well, I'd say go to my website, www.jaden, Jaden dash fox.com. And they'll somewhere on there be something that talks about walk-in, or you can just type slash WALKIN walk-in slash, and it'll take you to the whole section on the website with walk-ins. And there's a place where you can get the free clearing video where you can find your truth. That's easily the most direct,
That's the
quick
place to
way.
start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not a beginner video. There's some people in the
Oops.
call that were like, "Whoa, this is like really intense stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, you'll adapt. Don't worry about it."
That's right. Yeah.
Because
Just
like
breathe into it.
I've gotten to the point where it's like, look, we don't have time to pussyfoot around. There's been so many tangles. The biggest lie that I hear people tell is like, oh, you've just got these 2 or 3 little things, and when you let go of those 2 or 3 little agreements, your whole life opens up. Bullshit. There's tons of
Right.
crap, and you want to start shoveling as big and as fast as you can shovel to get to where you want to go. If you do it like little piece at a time, you're going to be there years.
Yeah, get the heavy duty bulldozer out, right?
Get the big bulldozers out, start moving ground. And that's so I've just jumped into that full force with my programs now. It's like you're going to twitch a little bit in the beginning, but as you get the flow of it, you're like,
It's a
wow,
good
there's a
twitch.
lot of cool stuff here. Like I'll take months worth of information and compact it into a couple hours. And there just isn't time. My interesting point of view, there just isn't time to dilly dally. Um,
I agree.
we need to have the tools that work and make quick change and get them out there. So,
Yes. Yes,
mhm,
I choose that.
yeah, yeah. Let's
Woohoo!
change this world.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's what we're here to do.
Yep.
Just so everybody knows, I am going to post links to everything that Jaden's discussed in the description of the podcast. So look
Cool.
for that as well. I'm very excited that you choose to join our listening audience today, Jaden. It
Yay!
was
I was so
such a
excited
pleasure.
when you called me. I was like, yeah, it was so cool.
You're always you're so much fun. Not
Thank
only
you.
are you a pioneer in ways that I can't even begin to express verbally, you are just a joy to work with
Oh,
too. So
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank
that.
you.
And I would love to have you back because I know you're going to have more awarenesses and more programs, and you're just a creator of magnitude. And I
It
love that
just keeps
about you
coming.
too.
Just
That's
keeps
right.
coming. Yeah.
Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's my play. That's why it's like the fun is actually, this is like my thing. That's how you find somebody who's like living their purpose, like they enjoy doing what they do. And it's like, how can we invite each other to find our thing that we most enjoy doing, that we can help other people to break out and become more of who they are. So
And do their thing
let's do
too.
this. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do this.
All right, Jaden, thank you so much. I look forward to having you back in the future, and
Yay.
keep on creating out there. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes up next. I know it's going to be something amazing. Really looking forward to your walk-in course and the facilitator part of that. So hopefully everybody else is going to jump in there and take a look at it and see if that's going to be an option for them too. And
Woohoo.
thank you again for joining me,
You're
Jaden.
welcome. Thank
Have lots
you.
of fun out there. All right,
Cool. Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.